And that's when I went into a long period of litigation with the Department of Justice because the way they stopped us was dirty tricks. So if you've ever seen, have you ever seen the movie Enemy of the State?
Yeah.
Okay, so I once
Gene
had
Hackman,
somebody, yeah, I
Will
once
Smith.
had somebody introduce me at a conference saying this woman played Will Smith in real life. And in fact, in
Oh.
the movie, his office was right next to my office in Washington. But I had 18 audits and investigations, 12 tracks of litigation, a smear campaign, and physical harassment it took 11 years ultimately to deal with it, and then 4 more years for the taxes. So 15 years total.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
Let me be dark for a second. If you look at the first Trump administration, he shut down Main Street. He injects 5 trillion into Wall Street, or the Fed does, and Wall Street buys Main Street, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
Now, this time we're shutting down Main Street again because this is really going to hurt small business, right? So last time he bankrupted 35% of the small business and centralized a lot of that market share into big business. So that was the pandemic game, right?
Yeah.
But now we're playing the tariff game, and it's going to do something similar. The question is, how do you inject the money? Doesn't look to me like the Fed's going to do it.
Not yet. I think they will eventually.
Well, are they trying to use crypto for some of it?
I don't think so.
We'll see.
I don't think that would work.
Well, it's not enough. There's no way you're going to create enough with crypto, no matter how much you pump it, to do everything they're trying to do. But here's the thing, John. I believe that at the heart of grift anatomy is land grab. Okay? And I'll add minerals.
We're coming to that. Yeah.
But if you want to do a land grab, having a recession lowers your prices.
Is this where we are? That voice, along with John Titus, is the voice of a woman who is an investment banker, former United States Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for housing under President George H.W. Bush, founder of Solari. She is out there in them streets talking about these things, so we invited her here. Let me welcome Catherine Austin Fitz to the Karen Hunter Show. Hello.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. Sina
Hi, Sina.
Gasman is here.
Yeah. Hi, it's great to be with you.
Great to have you. I've been watching a lot of your clips, and I said we need to have a conversation from somebody that might be on the inside, that might know some things.
Oh, I got booted out of the inside.
Okay, so what do you know? We spent the first hour talking about the military and this 71-minute speech that is right now. There literally every line is lit with people who formerly served or who are serving this country, and they're scared, they're hurt, they feel betrayed. Many of them are disgusted. One person liked everything Pete Hegseth had to say, but I was kind of unsure about that. And what's wild is most of the military, they skew right leaning. Even the black military members skew right leaning. And now they're the way the VA is being treated, people who are veterans who are out on the street, they're like, where are we right now?
So I would say a lot of people in the military are Constitution leaning. In other words, they took an oath, and their oath is to the United States and the Constitution. And so they tend to be very literal about that because when you're in a role that enforces, you have to be very literal. And what they are seeing is a lot of abrogation of the Constitution, and it's making them extremely uncomfortable. And it's very important because what we're watching is the mega rich versus everyone else. And it's essential if the mega rich is going to accomplish the control that they're now trying to accomplish, that they get everyone else dividing and conquering, right? So you got to turn everyone else against each other. And it's funny, I used to talk to people about trying to get them to understand all the money that was being stolen. And I used to say, look, if you would just collaborate on what was going on with the money, we could hate each other rich instead of hating each other poor. So, part of what is happening, you got the mega rich against everyone else, and essentially, what is happening is we're trying to turn everyone else against each other and make us incoherent. Because as soon as we're incoherent, we lose our power.
Right,
We
right.
lose
I
our
was
power
saying,
to act. Right.
I've seen it. Cena was saying earlier, just
Yeah.
Nazi Germany. I was like, no, this is worse because in the chaos, you don't know what to do. Nazi Germany was highly organized. You could mount a defense against something that you understand. This is today. It's like playing whack-a-mole with the chaos, and I think that's the goal.
Well, but you see similar whenever you see a push for central control, you see similar tactics. So what we are watching is tactics like the Reichstag fire. So I say, oh, I've got to invade DC or I've got to invade Portland. Well, you've got to invade DC and Portland for things going on the streets. Are you also financing those things? We don't know that the same people aren't financing both sides,
Right.
right?
Oh my God.
That's
Okay.
why I always, whenever I see an operation, I always say, how does the money work? And I never ask who pulled the trigger. I say who financed the bullet. Because I think we're watching a lot of events where the same players are financing both sides.
Catherine, looking at your clips and reading of work that you've put out, I guess I wonder, what is your origin story that made you so skeptical and questioning all of these things? Was there a point where you were kind of going along with the flow? And what was that inflection point where you kind of noticed things were not what they seem?
So I'll tell you the whole history here because I grew up in a poor neighborhood and I watched that game roll out on that neighborhood. So the thing that got me interested when I was a little girl, HUD had four boarded up foreclosed properties catty corner to my family's home and in West Philadelphia. And I used to walk through past those boarded up homes because we had a family of 6 or 7 people living across the street in a 1-bedroom apartment. And meantime, we had 4 boarded up HUD homes. And I thought, this makes no sense. Here you have a family who'd love to take care of those homes, but they're just sitting there for 4 years, boarded up and deteriorating and hurting the neighborhood because there's nobody in them taking care of them. So I said, this doesn't make sense. And whenever I would ask questions about why it had to be that way, people would say, oh, we're making money. We're making money at drugs. We're making money at mortgage fraud. We're making money. It was like, what is this money thing? And why are people destroying lives and neighborhoods? Because it seemed to me, that you were destroying more wealth than you were creating with this making money thing. So I decided in a young age. So I used to walk by these boarded up properties and they had a huge sign on them and it said, by order of the Federal Housing Commissioner, Assistant Secretary of Housing. And forgive my language, I used to say as a child, who is that asshole and why are they allowing this to happen? And when I got sworn in as the Assistant Secretary of Housing, I realized, oh, I'm the asshole.
I was
You know, I walked downstairs and I said to my deputy, how many boarded up foreclosed properties do we have in the country? And he said 50,000. I said, that's like hundreds of thousands of people thinking I'm an
Wow.
asshole. So I'm going to do something about it, which is the first thing I did to get myself in hot water. But anyway, I decided as a little girl, I'm going to learn how the money works and see why we can't turn this around. Because you're clearly destroying more wealth than you're creating. So I got to figure out this money thing. And what I didn't understand as a child was if you look at how accounting and financial systems on the planet are currently engineered, not how they have to be, but how they are, you literally have to understand all the money in the planet and the entire global financial markets to understand how the capital in West Philadelphia works. So, I went to I went to college, went to Wall Street. I loved Wall Street. I had a great career in Wall Street, but I kept moving. I went to a firm where I could move around all the different markets and work all the different departments so I could understand, the stock market and the bond market and all the different markets. And I finally concluded, look, this is all being rigged from Washington. And that's why I ended up working in the first Bush administration. And literally from that time on, now throughout the period, My feeling was the system is very corrupt, but you can't fight City Hall. In other words, I thought I had to get something done internally. And when I came out of the Bush administration, I said to one of my partners, we started an investment bank in Washington called Hamilton Securities. I said, these guys are going to get a hold of the technology and kill us all. You know, it was clear that they were going to use digital technology to implement total central control. So I said, and you know, I kept hearing from various people, we have to do this because, you know, this makes us money, and this is what it's not just about making money, it's about risk management. This is what enables us to stay in power and lowers our risk because it's too dangerous otherwise. So I said, we need a plan B. And so I went to work on figuring out how you could build more wealth, decentralizing economic and political power. So I was working on circulating capital in local neighborhoods. You know, think of it like your local stock market or local venture fund. That, you know, much more community currency circling money locally. And that's when I went into a long period of litigation with the Department of Justice because the way they stopped us was dirty tricks. So if you've ever seen, have you ever seen the movie Enemy of the State?
Yeah.
Okay, so I once
Gene
had
Hackman,
somebody, yeah, I
Will
once
Smith.
had somebody introduce me at a conference saying this woman played Will Smith in real life. And in fact, in
Oh.
the movie, his office was right next to my office in Washington. But I had 18 audits and investigations, 12 tracks of litigation, a smear campaign, and physical harassment it took 11 years ultimately to deal with it, and then 4 more years for the taxes, so 15 years total. And in the process, I got my heels dug in because in 1998, if you looked at the plan that they were implementing of globalization with the World Trade Organization, I said to myself, this plan will fail, and I don't want any part of it. And so I had an offer from the Department of Justice to settle. I said, I'm not going to settle, I'm going to fight. So, you know, I never dreamed it would take as long as it did, but in the process of fighting, I had to go public. I was always an extremely private person. You know, because if you're an investment banker, you talk to 20 people on the trading floor and a few people at the jockey club, and that's it. So I had to go public, and people would ask me questions, and I had long ago dealt with so much corruption from the corporate media. I said, that's it. I'm never talking to the corporate media again. And I'm happy to share those stories with you. But I would tell everybody on the radio, here's my email address. If you have a question, send questions. And over time, it took many years, those questions turned into businesses where I worked for individual people and families. I remember in 1998 when I realized how bad the corruption was, a financial coup had started, and there's now 21 trillion missing from the federal government, which we should talk about. But I turned to my general counsel and I said, we're in the middle of the litigation. I said, we're going to have to find a way to support ourselves at retail, meaning we're going to have to work for people and families because we can't work for big government or big corporations. And you know, you have to understand, I was doing deals that were $1 billion each in size, you know, so the idea of working for individuals or families was mind blowing. And my general counsel turned to me and said, good luck, honey. But we did, we finally did. And so now we have two businesses. One is the Solari Report, and what we say, you know, it's basically a media website, and we publish 4 hard copies a year. And what we say is there's an official reality, and then there's reality, and the official reality is for the cocktail party, and realities for the investment of your time and money, and you need to know both, and you need to navigate both. So that's what we're about at the Solari Report. And then we also have a business called Solari Investment Screens. For 10 years, I was an investment advisor because a lot of people wanted help protecting themselves from financial fraud or, believe it or not, healthcare fraud, which is even worse for your finances than financial fraud. And then that turned into Investment Screen Company, which I now run as well.
We're talking with Catherine Austin Fitts, Fitts. Sina Ghaznavi is here as well. I am really seeking solutions for the people, not just the people who listen to the show, but everybody. I want people to know
Right.
what they can do. It feels very hopeless when the courts are compromised, when the executive branch is compromised, when it seems like the judicial branch, the legislative branch has no clue of what to do, or maybe they're all compromised because they all can insider trade. I don't know what to tell people every day other than to form community, stay, fight
So
in community, what are you
so
telling people?
so there are many, many things you can do. And the
Okay.
important thing, the first thing you need to know is don't buy into the hopelessness. Hopelessness, John Rappaport once said, hopelessness is an op and it's planet wide. Don't fall for it. That's number one.
Mm.
It's not hopeless. Um, Number two, get off the couch. Okay. Stop watching. My nickname for the system is the tapeworm. I don't know if you know how a tapeworm works in your body, but it injects into you a chemical that makes you eat what's good for the tapeworm and bad for you. And then you
Mm.
feed the tapeworm. So the all solutions revolve around detoxing the tapeworm out of your mind, out of your body, and out of your finances, and starting to feed yourself what is nutritious for you, your mind, your body. So let's start. The first and most important thing everyone can do is pray, because this is a spiritual war. That's number one. Number two, what you can all do is use cash. What these guys want to build is a digital control grid. And once they get a digital ID and 100% digital transaction system with no paper currency, what are they going to do? They're going to throw a switch and put us in a digital concentration camp. So they can't get there unless the system gets sufficiently digital. So anything you can do to go analog and walk back digital, so we have a balance of analog and digital. I'm not saying go all analog, but walk it back. And the way you walk it back is with cash. Get everybody transacting in cash. Now, people say to me, inflation is bad. I don't want to have a lot of money in cash. That's fine. You can have money in real assets. You can have money in whether whether it's paper towels and toilet paper, which is the poor man's treasury bills. So I live in Hickory Valley, Tennessee. We're real big on the poor man's treasury bills. But
Yes.
but you can have it in real assets. You can have it in gold and silver. You can have it in inventory of all the things you need. You can have it by paying off your credit card debt or paying off your mortgage, whatever. You can have as much as you want in real assets, but get those transactions private and analog, whether you use checks, whether you use
Wow.
cash, whether you use barter. Just back down the digital system, because they depend on an all digital system to get complete control. So
I
that's
love that. Wait. Let me just say, I
okay.
love that. I make sure I pay for my gas and groceries with cash.
Great.
Every Sunday, I fill up my tank and I pay with cash, just because I just feel like, well, first of all, it's 6 cents cheaper for cash because they still have that 6, and
Right.
I'm frugal. But I didn't know that I was doing this in opposition to this thing. And where does crypto stand with
Yeah.
you? Where
Well,
does
first,
crypto?
Okay.
how do you get frequent flyer points if you're just paying cash all
Yeah.
the time? But yeah, I want to know about the
See, they're
crypto
all
stuff
complicit.
because the USDC is a big thing, the central bank currency in the United States they want to push.
So crypto is a complex topic. And so Bitcoin is different than the payment mechanisms, is different than stable coins, is different
Sure.
than meme coins. So, I can talk through all of them. I have a great briefing on stable coins, which everybody should listen to, because stable coins is a major step forward in building the control grid. So the current financial system, as imperfect as it is it's got a lot of digital controls, but not as much as they'd like. Crypto, particularly stable coins, will get you completely on a distributed ledger. And they want to make it really attractive for everybody to go into crypto. So bam, they can get the digital concentration camp. Now, again,
Jesus.
you're not gonna protect us by just not doing crypto. I'm not saying don't do crypto, but you've got to keep the analog system alive, because
I hear that.
remember, what they're trying to do is create a system which is not just a perfect surveillance system where nothing's private. FinCEN just announced and made this very public, and said this to all the crypto exchanges. No crypto transactions will allow to be private. None. Zero. That's
Yeah.
how the
Mm.
system is being set up.
So even
Okay.
if you have a wallet, even if this is crazy.
They want to set it up so that nobody and nothing is private.
So
And
let me ask you,
now,
if the dollar crashed, because I feel like our isolationism has allowed for other countries to not need us. So we see the soybean farmers are pretty much, they went from billions to nothing, being bought by China, and it looks like the dollar, as the oil rich nations are like, maybe we should not have the dollar, as something Gaddafi was talking about 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Here we are now. What if the dollar crashes? What if it's no
So,
longer valuable?
so the dollar has been steadily declining in purchasing power for our whole lifetimes. Okay. And we are now approaching a period of real inflation. So inflation has been bad. It's going to get worse. Likely is the likely scenario. And that's the dollar declining in value. There's a reason, because the effort to access the Russian resources in Ukraine failed is not unconnected to the likelihood that we're going to invade Venezuela, and we're invading Portland, DC, and now possibly Memphis and other cities, right? In other words, if you can't plunder there, you're going to plunder here. Do you see what I mean? Okay. So we've got two problems. We've got inflation rising. We have many different things that the current administration is doing to bolster dollar dominance. One of the reasons to call in the military is essential to achieving dollar dominance. The stablecoin plan. So we just saw the president sign into law the Genius Act, and that is to roll out stablecoins worldwide. It's a very aggressive, very bold plan to rebuild dollar dominance by literally making stablecoins available to 8 billion people through the mobile payment system. So literally what you're trying to do is get everybody in Ecuador and Bolivia and the European Union off of their currency and onto the dollar by accessing them through the crypto systems. And what I don't understand the details of how they plan to do it, but one of the ways they intend to get everybody onto stable coins is with very liberal credit terms, lending monies to farmers all over the world. So,
Welfare.
Theda, you mentioned frequent flyer miles. They're going to be very generous with stablecoin, the equivalent of frequent flyer miles, to get everybody in.
It's crazy.
Oh man, I'm a real sucker for that. I'm in trouble. I'm grateful that we're talking here. Wait, can I ask about this $21 trillion?
Sure.
I read about this. Are you, or let me just speak. There's a secret city that they built for the wealthy that none of us got invited to. Karen's well off.
So
I
I
don't know.
can't.
Why are you bringing me in it?
You
You're
should
probably
be
richer
invited,
than I
Karen.
am.
Get
No,
out of here.
I'm black. They probably
You don't
wouldn't
have
I don't want to
kids.
be in no damn secret society underground with people that don't like me. I'm not trying to spend the rest
Where
of
is this?
eternity
What is
with
going on
people.
with this thing?
Okay, so in 1995, a budget deal collapsed. We had a 3-week shutdown. It was during the Clinton administration. And the head of the largest pension fund in the country described what happened to me as follows. He said, they have given up on the country. They're moving all the money out starting in the fall. So literally you saw the leadership of the financial system give up on trying to work within the current governmental mechanism. Now, what do I mean about the current governmental mechanism? Since 1913, we've had a balance of power between the bankers who run monetary policy and the people's representatives who run fiscal policy. Okay. Digital technology allows us to create a financial transaction system with things like crypto, where the bankers can set complex rule systems of how you and Karen, the rules that you and Karen have to follow, the laws you have to follow, and use the money to enforce. So if I say you're locked down, your money won't work if you leave home. If I say you can't eat pizza, your digital money won't work to buy pizza. Okay. So now the bankers using digital technology can take over fiscal policy and run both monetary and fiscal policy. So a decision was made to literally pull as much money out of the existing government as possible while levering the government up into a debt trap. So what happened? Starting in fiscal 1998, starting October 1st, 1997, vast amounts of money started disappearing from the federal government, from two agencies, from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, where I used to be an assistant secretary, and the Department of Defense. As of fiscal 2015, there was 1 trillion missing from HUD and 20 trillion missing from DOD. Now, how do we know that? We know that because I was part of a group of people in the first Bush administration who got laws passed requiring the federal government to produce audited financial statements. And a process began in 1996 where the government would publish something saying, we are failing to produce audited financial statements as required by law, and here's why. And then in some of them, they would describe the undocumentable adjustments. In 2015, it was the largest undocumentable adjustment to date. The largest had been right before 9/11. I don't know if you remember the Monday before 9/11. Donald Rumsfeld gave a press conference and said there's 2.3 trillion missing from DOD. And in fact, there was a huge story coming out in Insight magazine that Friday that I was helping with the research on about the missing money. And we thought Rumsfeld was trying to get ahead of our story. In fact, what happened was the next day, many offices related to the missing money and the securities financing the missing money were blown up. Okay, so let's fast forward to 2015. In 2015, the Army and DOD announced they were missing 6.5 trillion, which of course was many multiples of their total budget, which, if you understand the financing operation, is possible. And I started to talk, I've been talking every year about it. And one of the reasons I was so concerned about the missing money was that I knew that there was only two ways to balance the budget. If you emptied out the retirement savings, then the only way you could balance the budget was by lowering life expectancy or delaying the retirement age, or both. Now, in fact, right after the budget deal busted in 1995, we saw the pill mills, we saw OxyContin approved by the FDA that started the pill mills outside of poor neighborhoods, the dropping of SWAT teams to roll up kids for private prisons outside of those neighborhoods, and a dramatic increase in predatory mortgage lending. And sure enough, in the low economic groups and the low income groups, you started to see a significant drop in life expectancy. And then, of course, it continued, and then the pandemic, it really fell off the cliff, including in the middle income groups. And now what you see, if you and I were to look at a life expectancy chart, we would see the 19 other industrial age, nations going like this, and the U.S. sort of diverging and then falling off the cliff. Down. Right.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, we are seeing improvements actuarially in Social Security as a result of those changes. It's a more complicated story than that. But I should mention we have all the information on the missing money at missingmoney.solari.com. We have years and years and years of government and other documentation and analysis explaining what's happening. Okay, so in 2015, there was a real push after those financials to get DOD to finally agree to do an audit. There was a lot of debate. It sort of came to a head in 2017. And the DOD announced once again they were going to fail to produce an audit, which means I should say that we are acting way outside the Constitution and the financial management laws and regulations. I mean, we're talking about crime. This is operating the federal government financially as a criminal enterprise. In fact, in 2001, I had a Senate staffer. I was visiting with the chairman of the appropriations subcommittee that oversees HUD, and they said, "What do you think is going on at HUD?" Actually, it was in 2000. And I said, "I don't know. What do you think is going on at HUD?" Somebody I didn't know. I was being careful. And they said HUD is being run as a criminal enterprise. And as a legal matter, that is correct. So when you...
Okay.
Well, let me keep going. To run HUD and DOD, to run their finances on a criminal basis, you can't do that unless the New York Fed, the Federal Reserve, the Department of Justice, and the U.S. Treasury proactively do that.
So they have to work in concert, which is why he wants Lisa Cook and Jerome Powell to be replaced, because he needs people in there who are going to do his bidding.
That's, all these folks have been doing that bidding all along in terms of running it as a criminal. All those folks have been running as a criminal enterprise all along. This has built up over many, many years. And so you get new appointees coming in and thinking they can't change it. But let me take you to 2018. Remember the Kavanaugh hearings and the Supreme Court justice's teenage sex life?
Sure.
Okay. During that period, what you didn't notice was the General Accountability Office on behalf of Congress and the Office of Management and Budget on behalf of the White House. that's both Republicans and Democrats, agreed to a policy called Federal Accounting Standards Advisory Board Statement 56. And there's a wealth of information about that policy and analysis of what it means to investors at missingmoney.soleri.com. But basically, what it said is we, the government, and our big banks and contractors can keep secret books. And the entire federal government finances went dark. And what that means, Karen and Sina, is that the U.S. securities market, both the large cap stock market and the bond market, the majority of the bond market, essentially have no meaningful financial disclosure. So
What?
we are now in a financial never land where the
Yes.
mega rich have complete control and are running everything secretly.
Okay, let's get back to the
Yeah,
let's
sorry.
get back to the points. We're talking to
Sorry
Catherine
to drop
Austin
that.
Fitz. That's all right. No, it's we need to
Sweating.
grow up. Catherine Austin Fitz is here. Sina Ghaznavi is here. You said number
Wait,
one,
I don't
no
want to grow up
hopelessness.
anymore. I don't want to grow
You
up.
have to.
I don't
You
wanna
have
grow
to.
up.
You're a
Can we
Toys
go
R Us
back?
kid.
Can I,
You have to
can
grow
I,
up.
as somebody who litigated with the Department of Justice for more than a decade, can I give you a piece of advice?
Please.
No matter what, never lose your state of amusement.
Oh,
Oh
don't
well,
worry.
we got that.
I
We
got
got that.
that.
Don't,
Yeah,
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 we got
don't worry.
that.
I
We
got that.
boots
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
ground. We joy is liberation. Okay, so number one, Austin Fitz says we have to not get away from hopelessness. We have hope. We pray. We're going to get through this. This is a spiritual war. I do believe that. We're not fighting flesh and blood. It's principalities in these dark places. We are doing that. Number two, get off the couch and stop feeding the tapeworm. Stop scrolling, doom scrolling, get up, detox that body, your mind, your spirit, read more. Let's get some fresh air and let's go to the truth. Number three, cash. Start using it. Just because we get to tip the balance, right? They want us all digital. Walk around, have a little bit of cash. We're not talking about having the cash that your grandmama and them had in the mattress and in their bras. Let's do a little cash every week. Let's be intentional. What's number four? Or is there a fourth?
Okay, you need get your money out of the big banks. The big banks are running this.
Yes,
Get
they
your
are.
money get your money into a good local community bank and credit union that cares about you. We have a 4-part series on the Soleri Report. It's public, it's free, on how to find a good local bank, and it answers every question you could possibly have. It's 4 60-minute interviews, and we go through all the great detail. But get yourself into a bank or credit union that cares about you and cares about the local community, and get out of the big banks. You can't trust them. Okay? So that's next. The next thing you need to do, and this is so important for your finances. Okay? This is a financial person telling you this. There is a great poisoning going on in this country. Okay? And that poisoning is coming from the food system, and that poisoning is coming from the pharmaceutical system, and it's coming from the health system. You cannot trust those systems anymore. The deterioration in quality control in those systems is beyond, it's so bad it's unbelievable. So what you need to do is you need to figure out how can you get local fresh food from trustworthy sources on an economic basis. And there are ways to do it, particularly if we organize. And if you don't do that, you will not have a clear mind, a healthy body, and the energy to deal with anything. Okay? You are being poisoned. You are not sick. You are not dying. You are being poisoned. And you need to get the poison out of your body. Need to get it out of your mind. And you need to not let yourself get poisoned on a continuing basis. And that means you've got to revolutionize your personal responsibility for food and health. You've got to be your own doctor. And you've got to, if you're not your own gardener, you got to find and organize with other people to make sure you have really healthy food. And I can't stress to you enough, you cannot imagine the deterioration in the quality of food. We have one of the pieces we wrote at Soleri, and we publish in hard copy a wrap-up every quarter, so we do 4 a year. We did one, Karen, called Pharma Food, and it was by a wonderful Dutch reporter who basically did a huge deep dive on lab-grown meat. Now, I'm a person who prides myself on being able to read or face any truth. I could not read it in one sitting. It was so horrible when you read what they're doing to engineer fake food and what they're trying to sell us and get us to eat. And of course, my fear is once they get financial transaction control, they can say your money will only buy lab grown meat.
Correct.
So, right. So I finished this and I said to our team, and we got a great team at Soleri, and these are people who love freedom. They're from all over the world. And I said, look, guys, I want you to know pharma food is going to be our worst failure. No one wants to read this. It's so hideous. No one will read it. No one will buy it. We're going to lose a ton of money. We're going to publish it anyway, but I want you to know it's going to be a complete failure. And we were like, we were ready for it. We published it. It was a huge, huge success. I was completely wrong. Here's why. All the fresh food people used it to market because they said, if you don't keep your local farmers alive, this is what you're going to eat. And one woman sent me the most wonderful email. She said, I've been a subscriber for years, but I could never get my husband to support me buying local, fresh. He said, it's too complicated, it's too expensive, it's too much time, it's too, I don't want to do it. And I gave him farm food, and he read it, and he came back and he said, honey, I'm all in. How can I help? That's it. I don't know what will give you the impetus to, because if you look in many communities throughout America, we have tons of public and empty space. We could start growing food. I mean, I live in a
Ron Finley, who was a crusader in this area, is a friend, and he started growing stuff on the highway in California and got in trouble. But this land is supposed to be free for us to eat off of, and we should not be paying for water and things, clean water, because tech bros want to control stuff.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We